I'm at Sweetwater, the largest guitar store in the United States. Here's what I'm curious about. There are thousands of guitars here, but I want to see how good is the least expensive solid body electric guitar. So we're gonna go into the store, figure out what is the least expensive guitar, and on the spot, check it. Now, when the viewers asked me to do this challenge last year for what guitar would I buy under $500, I only picked a guitar that was hanging on the walls in the store. This year, I'm not going to put limitations on it. I'm going to be able to pull a guitar from anywhere on the Sweetwater campus. This is what's really cool. When you're in their store, there's kiosks all over the store, and you can go to them and have them pull anything from the warehouse. They'll do it as a courtesy for anyone. You just pick an instrument and they bring it right to you. So I went here and sorted by lowest price, and there was some Epiphones, so I had them pull it, and let's check it out. I'm always curious to see how good are these guitars, especially this is a brand name guitar. This is Epiphone. So we'll go through the guitar and check it out. Okay. Attention, valuable and important accessories in box. Do not discard. That's hilarious. I've never seen a warning like that. It actually is. I was making fun about the cardboard box, but it's actually packed really, really well. In fact, really well. Okay. I thought it was going to be like a bright yellow, like a banana yellow. It's not TV yellow. Okay, yeah, like a banana yellow. Okay. A lot of stuff in this thing. All right, we'll put that there. Okay, so we have one-piece wraparound bridge, volume and tone, three-way switch, output jack, two single coil pickups, very inexpensive tuning keys, bolt-on neck, made in China, rosewood fretboard. I think it's cool as hell looking. Now, before we do the geeky stuff, I want to take a second and tell you about today's sponsor, because they make this video possible, but more importantly, they're making it possible to give away this guitar, some accessories, and of course, pay the shipping and make all of that something we can do here too as well. So I want to say thank you to the CMA YouTube channel, where you can find the series that I love called Music to My Ears. And what it is a series where people in the industry talk about country music, musical instruments, how it all comes together. And one of the things I really like about this show is that it's like our podcast here, it's like this channel here, where it's talking about the industry. It's talking about what goes behind the industry. In a recent episode, when they talk about how when Keith Urban did a popular song for a movie, he made sure that there was instruments like banjos and bluegrass feel in it. And that's important because, as you know here, music instruments and music is what we care about. And especially to see other people in the industry talking about those things is really interesting. I really think you guys will enjoy the series and that channel. And if you want to do me a favor, just go to the link down below and check it out. That would be really helpful to them and to us. And again, thank them so much for making videos like this possible. So let's go ahead and check this guitar out. Let's get into the geeky stuff. First thing we're going to do is check the tuning, and I've already tuned the guitar up. Let's go ahead and check the relief on the neck. So this guitar is 24 3/4 inches scale length, and you can see here it's got a pretty sizable gap right there. Let's go ahead and check this action. The action coming in at I'm gonna say 3.25 millimeters, maybe even close to 3.5 millimeters. So what is that? That's, I'm going to call that 0.13, right? So there you go, 0.13. The neck needs to be adjusted, it needs to be tightened, but also you can see here, you have a post that's pretty high. This one's actually not that high. And if you come around from this side, man, this is really up there compared to that. So that all has to be adjusted. A couple things to point out that are interesting is this is a dual action truss rod. I went ahead and checked it, and basically a dual action truss rod is going to help ensure the neck is straight no matter what the issue is. So it's pretty cool that it has that. The intonation's slightly out, and of course that's really tough because the action's so high. Of course you're going to be pushing everything sharp with action this high. I want to point out that this bridge is a one-piece bridge, but you can see here where they've already made all the adjustments. They're kind of built in. But that doesn't mean you're stuck. That's what these two things are for, these two screws. Basically, you can adjust them and bring this bridge forward or back, like kind of fine tune the intonation. In my experience, this does perfect, but I think we're gonna end up doing something with this guitar that this won't matter. Looking at the nut, there's a little bit of a gap right there. And again, this is a $150 guitar, $160 guitar. So this is a plastic nut, and it looks like it was obviously came pre-slotted. I don't think they actually did this themselves, and they just kind of dropped it in. It's actually pretty good, but of course, let's go ahead and check it. We're gonna push down on the 3rd fret and see how big the gap is. And that's actually pretty good considering that we haven't straightened the neck yet. I have a feeling that if you tighten that truss rod and straighten this neck a little bit, the gaps will be great. So the nut, that's actually very impressive. I would say for the price of this guitar, that came in really, really good. I give that like an A+. So you guys know why that's a big deal is sometimes when you're playing some barred chords, especially like the barred F chord and stuff, this stuff can get really hard to push down right here if these slots aren't cut right. And so if they're cut too deep, you're gonna have buzzing issues. If they're cut too shallow, then it's hard to fret. Okay, so let's go ahead and check these frets to see how well they were leveled. Overall, the frets look pretty good. There was a couple spots where I thought, well, maybe it's rocking a little bit, but when you played the notes, they weren't really sizzling, and so it did pretty good. And that's one thing I always tell you, always if you want to check with a fret rocker, it's very important. You'll find those high frets, but always play them because sometimes it doesn't come up as an issue. So now what we're going to do is the sock test. We're going to check the ends of the frets to see how well they did this, and you can hear that. Not that bad. You can see it's really scratched up, but it's not torn. I would say that's about a 2.5 to 3. Let's say a 3 out of 5. Let's do that clean spot we have right there. I mean, let's just say if you're a beginner, this isn't something that would scratch up your hands. It just wouldn't feel very nice and polished. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the bass side. And that feels a little rougher for sure. And again, a lot of scratches, but no tears and nothing catching. So again, not something I would want, but it's not something that would, you know, kind of tear up your hands. It just, again, wouldn't feel very smooth to the touch. So again, this is definitely a 2.5, 3 out of 5. What we have here is 22 nickel frets, and they are medium jumbo fret wire. Now what we're going to do is the friction test. That's where we kind of bend the strings to feel how gritty these are, and they're pretty gritty. These are not rough and they're not oxidized really bad. They just feel like, you know, somebody went over with about 400 grit sandpaper and no one did any polishing on these. So kind of scratchy. We have a mahogany neck, okay, with 6 really horrible tuning keys. These are my least favorite tuning keys. They're really clunky, and when you turn them, they're kind of loose, but they are usable. It's just you're gonna spend a lot of time kind of being a little frustrated tuning all the time. The nut is really good, and the bridge is good in my opinion, so the fact that the tuning keys are just the only problem, normally I'd say let's replace them, but like I said, I have a plan for this guitar. We'll deal with that in a minute. Now, here's a good time to talk about this bridge. Like I said, this is a already pre-intonated bridge where they've done this, put the saddle adjustments, kind of form-fitted it. This bridge is not machined, it's cast. So it's pretty heavy, and you can see the Epiphone logo in the cast. That's because that's probably who commissioned this to have this done. I've seen this a lot in guitars. If you've seen where there's the Epiphone logo in bridges like this, like in the E-Art guitars and other guitars, it's because wherever they're getting the parts, usually it's too expensive to make a new mold. So a lot of times the company that makes this for this company might go ahead and try to sell these with the Epiphone logo to other companies because they have this mold and it's too expensive to create a new mold. The finish on the guitar is polyurethane, and they did a really good job. It's thick enough to where you don't see any grain or any issues with it there. And this is a good time to mention that the body is made out of a multi-piece poplar body. Now it says on the spec sheet that this is a 60s, slim 60s D shape, and I have to say it's pretty close. It feels pretty much exactly what they're describing. It's very comfortable. If you've ever played any of the Epiphones with the 60s style neck before, I think this is going to feel very at home with you. Nothing about it seems out of place for that. Also, it has a 14-inch radius fretboard, which is a little different than what Gibson's normal 12-inch radius fretboard, so a little flatter, but it's hard to notice. Okay, thickness at the first fret is 22.44 millimeters or 0.883, and the thickness at the 12th fret is 0.942 or 23.94 millimeters, which, like I said, is not a super thick neck. This is a pretty thin neck. So let's go ahead and look at these electronics real fast, and let's look inside the cavity. First, let's just take the pick guard off and look at the route. So you can see it's a pretty big route here, and for some of you, you're like, hey, could you put P90s in here or not? I'm gonna say no. This measurement, because it's too shallow here. To put P90s in this guitar, you would have to route this body some more to fit that in, and that would also go with humbuckers. This is too narrow for a P90 for sure. This is wide enough, but again, so either way, you're gonna do some route work to the guitar, so just be aware of that. You can see they did no shielding paint in the guitar, and then again, there's that buffing compound that we always see. They put some shielding on the part where the electronics are, which is good. You have two 250K potentiometers with a capacitor here for the tone control, an output jack. All of it's pretty inexpensive stuff, but they work fine. Three-way switch is a little better than some of the box switches, so a little bit more robust switch there, so I'm happy with that. Wiring looks clean for what it is. Pickups, what you have here is 2 single coils with a ceramic magnet. Normally on a single coil, especially most single coils, you would have 6 individual slugs that are magnetized, whether that be Alnico 5 or Alnico 2. These are just steel slugs, and then they're touching a ceramic bar magnet at the bottom. And a lot of times people are like, well, that's horrible. But keep in mind, that's essentially some of the anatomy in P90s and other pickups. So there's nothing wrong with this pickup. Although, yes, these are made very inexpensively. That is gonna be a factor. It's still not bad. Again, it's what you want out of it. So let's go ahead and look at these pickups. Now, looking at the bridge, right now, we have everything full forward. We're looking just at this single coil bridge pickup, and we're looking at basically 4.01K. Now that's pretty low. As you guys know, for reference, the John Mayer pickup is 6.66K. And that's a pretty vintage style pickup. Vintage pickups usually being about 5K. All that really means is there's not a lot of wire on this. Let's go ahead and look at the neck, and then we'll talk about something in a second. Looking at the neck, we're at 4.06. So again, all that really means right now, there's not a lot of wire on this. The inductance on this bridge pickup is 1.55, and the inductance on the neck is 1.53. Just so you know, on the weight, this guitar came in around the 6-pound range, which is really light. Another thing worth mentioning is it doesn't have a rolled fretboard edge. However, it doesn't have a sharp edge. It feels pretty good, and I was actually happy with it. Let's give it a playthrough. So I have it plugged into a fairly inexpensive Fender amp. Neck's very comfortable. I mean, obviously no body contours, so there's no arm contour, no belly contours. The body is rather thin, which is really cool. That's actually a cool thing. I actually love the pick guard. Let's go to that bridge. Huh. So it has a little bit of tuning stability issues. Middle position. Oh, that's a nice little mix of those. So the guitar is not staying in tune, so I'm taking a second to address a couple issues. I know our first thought is that the tuning keys are not that great. However, like I said, they are a little loose and not amazing by any means. They are most likely not the culprit, and if they are the culprit, we don't know until we try a couple things. The first thing I want to do is just let you know that this is a plastic nut. So what we're going to do is use some lubricant by D'Addario, and we're just going to go ahead and put some of that on the nut. I've done videos where you can use a pencil. There's all kinds of ways to do this, but I love this because this little tube here, which by the way, this is a brand new tube. This tube will last me a few years. What we're gonna do is instead of replacing tuning keys and changing out components and changing out pickups, because usually that's where these kind of videos go. It's like, hey, take this $160 guitar and show $300 and stuff in it. We're gonna put absolutely no money into this guitar except for a pack of strings. What we're going to do is restring it with 11s, and there's a reason why we're gonna do 11s. So let's go ahead And I know what you're thinking, well, this has a preset intonation on it, so will the 11s affect that? No, the only thing that can really affect the intonation going out where you're gonna have to adjust is if you use a wound G string. So these do not have a wound G string. So if you're familiar with Keith Richards or Ry Cooder, you know that they both famously played a 5-string guitar tuned to open G. And so it's perfect for anyone that wants to learn some slide work, somebody who just wants to play the blues, or even some rock as a beginner. It's absolutely perfect. So what's great about this guitar is the pickups sound great for this kind of music. The style of the guitar is great. And again, it doesn't require any modifications. I prefer 11 gauge strings. You could use 10s and still achieve this, but I think because of the tuning, a little more tension is needed to sound really good, especially with this guitar. What's great is I'm going to set this guitar up right now. Again, no low E string, and then I will take it home, do a demonstration. So what we're going to do real quick is we're going to go ahead and stretch the strings, because that's another problem the other strings had. So go ahead and put your hand here. Why you're putting your hand here was when you pull up on this string lightly and tug on it all the way up and down. What I don't want is it to come over here and pop out of this, and because it could chip the nut, especially a plastic one. So we're putting that to stop it. See, we're stopping it from popping out. And again, what you're going to do is work it all the way and up and down, right? And same thing. And just go ahead and stretch them out, and you play them, and then stretch them out again. Light little tugs up and down the strings, and that's a great way to get it started. So I'm back, and we have the guitar, and it's now a 5-string open G blues rock machine. A couple things to tell you. One, I did adjust the neck slightly. I did about 2 full turns on the truss rod, and that was able to get the neck pretty straight. And then of course I lowered this one side of the bridge right here. So it was a quick adjustment. I think most of you, if you haven't tried something like that, you should definitely try it on a guitar like this. I mean, the guitar is $150. This is where you want to learn to make adjustments to your guitars, especially the ones you love, on something like this. Obviously, with going with the 11 gauge strings, even losing one, the tension is pretty close to what it was when it was 10s before. So let's go ahead and show you this open tuning. What's great about it is it's open G, so when you strum it, it's just open G. Right now, I'm running through a Line 6 Catalyst 50 watt, mic'd up with an SM57. What I love about this is we got a little bit of overdrive going, and let's just show you if we bar it off. Okay, so let's do a little riff. We're gonna bar off the 7th fret, and then what we're gonna do is just take our middle finger and place it down on the B string, which is on the 8th fret. And there you go. There is some very Keith Richard vibed tones. Now, a great thing about this, like I said, open tuning, you can play it all with one finger. Here's using the 2 middle strings. Here we go. Now, I like using the last 2 strings. And if you really want it to growl, use all the the top 3 strings. So a little bit more fun, check this out. This is a really classic thing you can do on a 5-string open G tuned guitar. Go ahead and make yourself a power chord shape. You can do it on the 5th fret. And then what you want to do is just go ahead and lift off this finger and do this. this is a very cool guitar for what it is. For this price point, to get something that sounds this good, that does that you don't have to worry about. And here's the best part about this. There is a chance that if you get one of these, you're gonna get some bad frets, maybe some fret sprout, maybe some gritty frets. I mean, that's just basically the law of the land when it comes to guitars that are, you know, $150 to $160. However, for what you're doing with it, for this style tuning, you're gonna be able to get away with a lot and do some of the minor repairs yourself if you have to do some adjustments and setups. But what's great about this is, like I said, it's just a cool vibing guitar. These pickups are well suited for that, as you've heard. They definitely have the vibe. You don't want the guitar to sound too good because essentially that sound is raw and it's not a, look, the blues are supposed to be played on $3,000 guitars. Right? But they're supposed to be played on guitars that you find that are cool, that have a vibe. And this guitar has a cool mojo vibe, especially for the price. And that's why when I went to the largest guitar store in the United States and basically had my choose of anything I could find, I was like, I want to find something fun and cool. I know it's harder and harder to find those cool pawn shop finds and those cool rare little small shop finds where you find this cool little classic guitar. But let's find something like that. This is an homage to the whole, I want to play some raw blues rock on a guitar that basically just does what it does. I don't have to worry about it. You spill beer on it, you leave it in the corner in the bar. It's just exactly what you need. It's a great guitar. And what's cool is we're gonna go ahead and give this guitar away with some cool accessories. So we're gonna give away like a $30 snark tuner and a bunch of swag to go with it, so that kind of pad up the value, make it more interesting for you guys. If you want to enter to win this guitar, there's a link down below that takes you right to where you can register. Keep in mind, no one will contact you through YouTube or any other platforms. Whatever email you use in that to enter the contest is how I personally will respond to you. That's how I do it personally. And if you have to get on the phone with me and talk to me for a second to understand it's me, I'm okay with that. The only thing is, like I said, you have to be 18 and you have to live in the United States. I'm sorry, that's just how it has to work. And there's no charge, and no one will ever ask you to pay for anything, including shipping or anything. So like I said, if anyone contacts you and says you have to pay something, you don't. This is free. Just you click, you enter, and if you win this guitar and the cool swag that comes with it, then that's what you get. All right, guys. As always, I want to thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a little fun little journey, and it was a little crazy. I lost my voice in the middle of this episode and had to wait and put stuff back together. And I really appreciate the patience and time you guys you spend with me. And until the next time, know your gear.